Hello, folks. Welcome back to Ferox Frank Reviews. Your host, Ferox Frank here, and, well, today, this is going to be a little bit of a special because I've wanted to do this movie for a long while, and for many people, they say it's a really good movie. That's a pretty damn good, great movie, all that type of stuff. But, thing is, this movie is based off on a novel, from a series of books from a particularly popular character in novelization, and, well, the book, let's say that the movie took liberties from the book itself, but yeah, the actor they got kind of sort of ruined the film a little bit because of the fact that it's not really the film itself. It's not actually based off on the book itself. It's actually okay, fuck it. I really can't actually do this one any justice. Today's film is Jack Reacher. Yeah, it's time I did this movie. Before we get started with the movie review, I gotta mention something about Jack Reacher himself, all right? Jack Reacher is a character that was created by Lee Child, who is a British author, and is actually in a book series called that's actually known as the Jack Reacher novel series, which Lee Child still writes to this very day. Now, the thing is, Jack Reacher is actually a former U.S. Army investigator and also a veteran soldier, and knows exactly what the hell he's doing, and he's just a damn good detective. Basically, he's kind of like if you mix them. Okay, I guess the best way I guess the best description of what the guy technically is in the novelization version. Think of him as sort of a hobo version of Sherlock Holmes, only jacked up to Schwarzenegger level of muscle. Yeah, that jacked up, and he knows how to fight, which is fucking scary. Now, the movie version, on the other hand, now a lot of people said keep saying the exact same thing about the movie. The movie is really good, but it's not a Jack Reacher film. It's actually a Tom Cruise film, being Jack Reacher, based off on a Jack Reacher novel, which is kind of obvious. I mean, just to get here's a bit of a difference between like the biggest difference between the novelization and the cinema version. For one thing, well, don't get me wrong, Tom Cruise is a great actor and all. I mean, he's got tons of great films under his belt, including a couple of really bad ones and questionable ones. But you look at that film, and this is actually going to be looks like it's going to be a decent action movie, an action thriller. And you know what? It is. It is a surprisingly good action thriller. So that's some of the best things I have to say about the movie. It's a good action thriller. The acting is top notch. You actually do give a shit about the characters, but there's one big problem. It's Tom Cruise. All right. If you know anything about the novelization version, let me put it this way: Tom Cruise is around 5'7", 5'8", and he weighs around 180 pounds in this movie, and that's basically him in pure muscle weight. Okay. You want to know how much Jack Reacher? You want to know Jack Reacher's features? uh, Novelization version. Jack Reacher is 6'5" and he weighs 250 pounds. And he is jacked with muscle. Yeah, that's 250 pounds of muscle weight, not fat weight, muscle. And he's a former soldier and he's still in really great shape. Yeah. Big difference between the two versions. Right? Also, to be fair, if the novelization version of Jack Reacher punches you, you're not getting up. If Tom Cruise punches you, okay, you're obviously going to get up for another punch, though, but he'll put you down afterwards. Now that I got that out of the way, is there anything else I have to say about this movie particularly? Oh, yeah, actually, the movie, you see, the movie is actually based on one of the Jack Reacher novels, exactly. Which one? Well, how about the ninth one? Yeah, One Shot. This movie is based on One Shot, the ninth novelization of Jack Reacher. Right, and there are differences between the novelization version and the movie version. So much so that I think those guys who actually do "What's the Difference" really needs to do a video on this. I mean, seriously. I mean, just food for thought. Food for thought. Okay, so how do we put it this way? How do we get this movie started? Well, let's start off with with a guy who we actually later find out is a former army sniper. His name is James Barr, and he's in his own little workshop making his own bullets. Now, contrary to belief, this is this is extremely plausible because of many reasons. If you're a member of the National Rifleman Association, like my father was, I only know so many gun shows I've been to since I was a kid. But you know for a fact that people like that tend to actually make their own bullets. They actually have the shell casings and they actually have the proper equipment for it. Like the proper gunpowders and stuff, and the brass to actually make the bullet tips, then you can actually make your own bullets. Right? But of course, you need a permit for that. And of course, Barr is former military, and he has a permit, and he goes shooting all the time too. So the movie basically starts off with just seeing him making his own bullets for what's making his own bullets, and then we see his own van going into Pittsburgh, his hometown, and he goes parking in a parking structure across the street from one of the sports stadiums, and we see this guy wearing gloves, puts on sunglasses, puts a quarter into the parking meter for some reason, and this is a sealed off portion of the of the parking structure where there's no camera can actually see it though. So there's video footage of the camera of the van going in, and we see this guy taking Barr's gun, and Barr's gun, on the other hand, is, well, it's this. Oh, wait, can you see it properly? Okay, you, screw it. This is it. It's an M14 rifle. This was actually now for those of you who are huge military fans, you may real were into the military. You may know for a fact that this was the rifle originally used by the U.S. military during the Vietnam War until they switched over to the M16. However, bit of a fun fact here: they still use this rifle not only for training purposes but also for sniping purposes as only. But this is the now this is on the now this is actually on guns on this gun game that's actually Guns Pro on the Google App Store. So yeah, basically I actually so basically I had my own version of this gun on my game. So yeah, I modified it to the very specifications of Barr's gun. So that being said, what does this guy do? Takes aim, turns the safety off, and snipes people. He kills six shots, six shots, and five casualties, five dead. Yeah, guy covers his anyway. The police come in with SWAT. Guy's already cleared out at this point, though. However, the police actually find the location where the shots were taken. They find the lead detective named Mr. Emerson, who I'm going to call Detective Emerson, or Emerson or Detective, whatever, doesn't really matter. Anyway, he actually discovers he finds the bullet, but he also notices that the parking meter was still active. So he actually dumps the parking meter, and there was only one quarter in there, and they dust it for prints, and comes up as James Barr. They find Barr passed out in his home, and they actually arrest him. Now Barr is actually now arrested with Emerson and the district attorney. See if he'll want to lawyer up, or if he wants to confess. And they've been doing this for hours. So what does Barr do? Barr actually, this is basically this is sort of a characterization of of a middle finger saying, "I'm not confessing to anything." So what does he do? He takes the pen and paper and he writes something down. He gives it to Emerson. He goes, "Ah, we got a confession." And what? All the paper says in all caps says, "Get Jack Reacher." And the guy says, "Who the hell is Jack Reacher?" Well, who is Jack Reacher? Here's a bit of a fun fact. Jack Reacher is the very guy who arrested Barr back in the military. It's a very complicated situation. Yeah, we actually at this point, Reacher's actually I don't know where exactly Jack Reacher is at this point. He's probably in another state someplace, or he's probably in North Carolina. Well, the movie said he was actually in North Carolina at one point, so or he was in Florida. But either way, but either way, I'm gonna guess it was probably Florida or something. So yeah, he actually because he mentions he was in Florida, so so he goes to a good. He sees that James Barr was actually arrested. He sees it. He gets pissed off. He goes straight down to a Goodwill. Actually, gets new change of clothing and heads all the way up to gets head all the way up to Pittsburgh to actually bury James Barr. Well, and of course, at this point, Emerson is telling the DA everything he knows about who Jack Reacher is. That he has no social security. He has basically nothing. He has no forms of identification other than the fact that he was actually in the former. That he's a former military officer, a former investigator for the U.S. military, and he tends to move around a lot. Well, that's going to be a bit of a problem. So, how do we find this guy exactly? I don't think we find him. I think he finds you. I was like, yes, there's a Jack Reacher here to see you. We were just talking about this guy. Are you serious? And he just walks right in. It's like, where's James Barr? Yep. Jack basically is introduced to James Barr, who actually got assaulted on the way to the prison. Basically, he was supposed to be in protective custody, but apparently some guards actually threw him to the wolves at this point, where a bunch of prisoners beat the shit out of him. Yeah, let's just say if Jack actually gave a shit about James Barr, he will get the information about the guard and the information on the prisoners, and rightfully make sure they'd be all be paraplegic for the rest of their lives. Yeah, that's if he gave a shit about James Barr, which of course he doesn't. I'm only saying that because if you know everything about there is about Jack Reacher, you know for a fact that this guy is somebody you never want to fuck with or get on the bad side or anything. So, so basically they ask him more information about Barr, and and he asks to see the evidence. They say no, he leaves. It's like, hey, wait a minute, you said you were with him? No, I didn't. So they all assume that he's actually Barr's friend and then we meet Helen, who's actually Barr's defense attorney, and she's also the DA's daughter. What the fucking coincidence? But she does have her own particular reason because of the fact that apparently some of the people that maybe the DA put away were actually innocent. So, yeah, kind of a huge fuck up on that account. And the DA's never lost a case before, so sort of a slam dunk case. So, anyway, she asked Jack Reacher why he's not here to help. And he said he came here to bury him. He came here to bury James Barr. And what was James Barr's crime in Baghdad? Well, apparently because of the fact he was a sniper. It's basically to do. Well, okay, let me put it this way. In the movie, Jack basically says there's actually four types of people who join the military: family tradition, patriotic, people looking for a job, and people looking for means to a real reason to kill and get away with it. That is James Barr. Although he forgot to mention there was also the fifth alternative, the people where the military is just a fresh new start for them, which they've given up on everything else. So they say, screw it, I'm going to join the military, so I can start over again. So yeah, it's actually sometimes usually a reset, believe it or not. So it's actually five resets supposedly. But then again, it's the Tom Cruise version. I'm not going to bitch about it. I'm pretty sure it's in this version too. But to be fair, I got this book last year. I haven't read it yet, and I actually pretty much got it because it was closing out at the library in my hometown. Huh? So hey, got several Jack Reacher books on my top shelf, no less. And guess what? And guess what? One of the books is actually based on the sequel film, and one's also based on the second season of the TV show and possibly the third season of the TV show. Yeah, I got a couple. Yeah, I just picked a random assortment of Jack Reacher books. Go figure. But hey, they're the whole novelizations, and they were cheap, so I can't bitch and complain about that. Anyway, Jack also later tells Helen exactly what James Barr did. He basically trained to the point because he has an itch, he has a scratch that he wants to shoot somebody. Get that itch out of the way, just to kill somebody legally. However, he's been working. He actually worked his way up to sniper, trained for so long, and it was time for him to go home. And he did not get to fire one shot. Now, this is very typical for some people in the military, but for Barr, this was unacceptable, and he needed to scratch that itch so badly. And so, what does he do? He takes his blanket and makes a makeshift silencer, goes into a parking structure, and actually guns down 4 civilian contractors. Yeah, in cold blood. His itch has finally been scratched. Now he can go home. But Jack Reacher found out and had him arrested. And it turns out it was that what Bart didn't realize was the guys he actually had killed were actually part of a rape rally from ages 11 to 50. Yeah. Well, actually, it wasn't really 50. It was actually ages 11 to 60 at some point. Yeah. So these guys just were in a all weekend rape rally, and Bart basically just did a good deed. He just killed a he gunned down like 4 rapists. And the further Jack Reacher dug into it, though, it got more and more messy. So, yeah, apparently the company that actually contracted those men just want the whole thing to go away because it was their men. So it came down to the point where Jack was just told to drop the investigation altogether. Even though, if you know Jack Reacher, he doesn't want to do that. But in this case, it just got the more he dug in, the more uglier it got. So he just said, so at some point, he just dropped the case and said, "The hell with it." So yeah, it was pretty much that ugly. However, Jack made a promise to Barr if he actually had messed up one more time, he would come for him. Helen basically talks to Jack Reacher and basically gets on his side, telling him that he is an investigator, so she wants to hire him as an investigator. At first he declines, but then he's like, you know what? I got nothing better to do, so all right, fine, I'll take a look at it. But you have to talk to the witness. But you have to talk to the family of the deceased. All right, that way you get their side. Okay, so you can see that they're not just little pamphlets or pictures or anything; that they were real human beings. So it's kind of understandable why Jack would do that because of the fact he is a really damn good investigator. And if you've seen what he's done in the novelization versions and in the movie and TV show, you can understand why he does what he does. He's a fucking badass. So yeah, he goes to the crime scene and he actually takes a look at the evidence. But before he actually takes a look at the evidence, he checks out the crime scene. He sees where the victims were all killed, and he checks out the parking structure where the shooting took place. But he also checks out the bridge, which was also nearby too. So he knows a little, and he starts thinking. And at the same point in time, this criminal organization is actually getting a little nervous. One of the civilians within the criminal organization is getting a bit nervous that there's somebody snooping around. So he actually hires some people to take care of Mr. Reacher, which is going to backfire. So afterwards, Jack takes a look at the evidence and he says, "No, it's all solid, all good." So he heads to a bar, eats, pays for his meal, but focuses on the quarter because that is what's bothering him. Why the hell would he pay for parking? Hmm. Doesn't make any sense. He notices all the bar patrons, and he notices this guy and girl are arguing, and the girl comes by and tries to, well, solicitate him a little bit though. But thing is, Jack is no fool. He's been through this shit 100 times, and he's not interested. He just wants to be left alone. And he basically implies the fact that the girl's a whore, but it turns out, and then the big guy comes over named Jeb, defending his little sister named Sandy, and he said, "Look, man, you calling my sister a slut? No, I'm implying the fact she's a whore, and I'm not really interested. Come on, I'm gonna kick your ass outside. Pay your bar, pay your bill. I'll pay when I come back in. You're not gonna be able to pay it now." That's it. All right. Sandy, go home. No, I want to see this. I don't mind blood. Oh, you don't mind blood? That means you're not pregnant. What the fuck? Most people thought this was actually like just stuff Tom Cruise just ad libbed in the movie, but no, it's actually shit Jack actually says in the novelization version, which is pretty fucking hilarious. So they step outside, and well, basically, Jack basically tries his best trying to defuse the situation, tells him what's really going to happen if they continue down this path. Just like, I'm going to kick your ass. Okay, fine. Just remember, you want this. I didn't. So they start to fight, and Jack puts him down. Like, really, yeah, like freaking Jeb tries to come in with a haymaker. Oh, elbow smack, smacks him in the face with the elbow so quickly, turns him around, kicks him in the ball sack so hard he drops to the ground. Two moves. Jack just did nothing but two martial art, just did two fight moves, and the guy's down. So the other guy start the fight. It's like, oh, okay, so I was a little off on the numbers, but all right, let's fight. So he takes all of them down relatively easily. Like they try to get one guy gets a hit, doesn't really make a difference. As Jack can take the hits, and he puts all these guys down, but except for two guys, and then he basically breaks one of the guys' knee, almost breaks one of the guys' kneecaps. And the final two guys and Sandy run away and then the cops show up. It's like, wow, that is a fast response time. They come in and arrest Jack. Jack is looking at Jeb dead in his eyes, and he says, "Who the hell sent you?" Because he was just set up. Jack's no motherfucking fool, man. Yeah, this is somebody you don't want to piss off. When somebody like this is on your case, pray he kills you, or pray you get into an accident. Or pray you just move to another state and move to another country where there's no extradition. Because this guy will fucking find you. He'll do God knows only what. He's scary. So Jack gets arrested and he gets posted bail, and basically they because like nobody wants to press charges against him. I was like, oh, that's too. So okay, Emerson and Helen are a little bit disappointed. They said, "Hey, they started the fight. I stopped it. I finished it. Plain and simple. Okay, nothing more, nothing less." So basically, Helen goes to, so Helen and Jack basically talk about the whole situation, what just happened. He basically says, well, no, I was just set up. That's all. Oh, come on, you weren't set up. Like, no, I was definitely set up. He basically explains everything that he knows for a fact those guys were not related to the girl, and that the cops are called way ahead of time before the fight even started. So, yeah, he knows. He knows. And the civilian contractor guy who was working for the bad guys actually takes care of Jeb off screen, and of course he meets the assassin Charlie, and he meets the main villain named the Zek, who you may actually remember Joe put on the A list a while, like months ago. Yeah, it's about time I actually start doing this movie with that asshole, right? And the guy basically says like he did everything he needed to do. He does whatever needs to be done to survive. I'm looking at him like you're a fucking coward, dude. Seriously, I know criminals. Seriously, I've seen criminals who would eat you alive, who would make you their prison bitch. Well, you don't have what? All you have is like a thumb and a finger. So what? They'll make sure you use it to good use, huh? They're gonna make you your fucking prison. They're gonna make sure you're a little bitch by the end of the week. No, not even by the end of the week. By the end of the fucking night. Yeah, you're a fucking pansy compared to them, guy. You suck. I really don't like this character, the Zack. He's basically like arguably the worst villain I've seen in film history. So either way, Charlie kills the contractor and actually tries to and locates Jeb's body so they can actually use it for later. Eventually, Reacher and Helen discover more stuff about the victims, and there has to be a connection between the victims. Connection between the victims, they just can't find any, and of course they look at Barr's credit card statements. So there has to be some connection to where he's been that people may know him. He has friends somewhere. So and well, turns out Barr was a loner. Okay, what about the places he goes to, like grocery stores, bars, bowling alleys, strip joints, maybe even a pool hall. Maybe even a place to go get some gambling done. It's like, nope, it's all squeaky clean. Let me see that. No, there's got to be check for gun ranges. Gun ranges? Yeah, it's gun ranges. The guy's yeah, he makes his own bullets. He's an app, which means he shoots all the time. And according to his credit card sim, he takes a long drive every Saturday. So that means he went shooting every Saturday. So look for a gun range, that actually has a long range for him because he's a sniper. Oh, okay. I dropped me off at the auto parts store. What? Jack remembers the fact that the girl said she used to work. Said she works at the auto parts store. So he tells Helen to drop him off at a store that's the auto parts store, and he finds Sandy. Yeah, she tells him everything that Jeb was actually set him up, because he was supposed to be a pervert, but no, he wasn't. He's something a lot. He's something a lot worse. Somebody you don't want to fuck with. So eventually, Sandy tells him everything. And that Jeb's also is also dealing crystal meth and all that type of shit. So Sandy gives him his car so he can gives him her car, which is actually Jeb's car, to actually go to Jeb's house. Jack gets to Jeb's house, and of course, Jeb's mother is actually surviving, actually going through a bender at this point, actually coming out of a bender, and she makes a call to Jeb's buddies when Jack goes inside. And he happens to notice that, yep, is kind of a mess. Jeb's missing. The shower curtain's missing. Yep, Jeb's dead. No doubt about it. And Jeb's buddies come in to actually fight Reacher. But it's kind of a stupid little fight scene because he walks out of the bathroom. This guy hits him in the back of the head with a baseball bat. He falls right into the damn tub. And these two guys are trying to struggle to fight Jack Reacher in a small bathtub, in a small bathroom. And Jack's just sitting in the bathtub like, until one of them gets knocked out by the other guy by mistake. Like, seriously? So yeah, Jack starts to fight these guys, and he fucks them up pretty easily. I mean, seriously, he beats them down. He even takes one guy, actually smacks the head into the other guy. Now, there's also this one other guy who has a gun. Jack grabs the gun, actually holding the gun to the point where he's actually bending the guy's finger. He gets more information that Jeb's been missing. And he's like, yeah, Jeb's probably dead. All right, now hand me your keys. And so he takes the guy's car keys. And he says something that's arguably a really cool line. It's like, now look at your friends. Now look at me. Do you do you ever want to see me again? No, no, man, I never want to see you again. Am I stealing your car? Use it for as long as you want. Why, thank you. You're very kind. He pulls the guy's finger out. He takes the gun. He takes the guy's gun away, by taking his finger out, almost breaking his hand in the process, and disarms the gun. And of course, unloads the gun, walking out of there like a fucking boss. During his investigation, Jack and Helen actually go back to Helen's office and actually go through all the evidence, and then Jack real and it turns he actually tells him he tells her everything what happened to Jeb. She thought that he had killed her. No, I didn't kill him. I mean, Jesus. Uh, but he says that he was actually. But he basically says that he was killed because of the fact he didn't do his job properly. So yeah. Anyway, he looks at all the stuff. He looks at all. Anyway, he discusses what happened with the victims, and of course how James Barr would actually how James Barr would have actually done the crime scene. And he comes to the conclusion that James Barr, he doesn't want to admit this, but it's true. James Barr isn't the murderer. He didn't kill those people. Us, the audience, already knew that. So he basically said how James Barr would have actually done. Because of the fact that James Barr, that in his record, he actually had killed people while he was inside of a parking structure. I was like, yeah, because he was trained too damn well. That his training becomes more or less his instinct. But the fact is, he was actually in a parking lot, yes, but the sun was right behind him at the time, and he was facing the alleyway where it was actually just a nice narrow alleyway, and of course, it was just a straight line, and he easily picked off the rapist at the time. The ideal conditions that he would have had if he was on the bridge. Yeah, if he had parked his, if he had actually just parked his vehicle on the bridge, he could have just gunned those people down. He could have even gunned more people down relatively easily, and he wouldn't have to police his brass because they're already inside because his brass is already inside the car to begin with, and he could just drive on out. perfect ideal conditions. Now, why was the parking structure a bad idea? Because of the fact the sun would have been in his eyes at that point in time. But, and of course, Bart doesn't own any sunglasses. So it was pretty obvious. So, he comes to the conclusion that Bart's innocent. But he says that there was actually a particular reason that the killings weren't random. There were only 4 random targets and 1 main target. Hence the one shot. And yes, they make a reference to one shot, like the actual novelization, the one shot. So, title drop based. So, yeah, the movie did a title drop based on the novelization. So, so let's look at the people real quick. We have a banker who was having an affair with this woman who worked in the same building. The guy was the first one who got killed, but he was the practice shot for the one true shot. And there was this woman whose husband owned a construction site, who was being bought up by a company called Lyman Good Industries, but she decided not to sign the contract and decided to go. It was actually going into the building for a loan. She was the main target. The other 2 people was a babysitter and a mother, who were just gunned down for no reason at all. They were just random people. Yeah. Bad fucking move for the sniper. Because now Jack is gonna fucking torture this guy. Oh yeah. So it turns. So anyway, Jack actually tells Helen to look into Lyman Good Industries. It turns out Lyman Good Industries has been involved in very questionable activities for the last decade. So it makes perfect sense that somebody from Lyman Good Industries had framed Barr, but they don't have any evidence yet. And of course, Jack notices he's being tailed. He has Helen actually run the license plate number on the car that was tailing him, which of course came back to Lyman Good Industries. So yeah, they're fucking with the wrong guy here. So Zek tells Charlie to actually get rid of Mr. Reacher by maybe having the cops go after him instead. And so what does he do? He finds out where Sandy is, and he actually has her killed and dumped in the alley right by Jack's apartment, right by the motel Jack happened to be at. And oh, that was a big fucking mistake. Because now Jack is gonna fucking murder these guys. Slasher movie style. At least I would have done that. But I'm not an action movie hero, so oh well. Anyway, there's actually a massive car chase between Jack Reacher, the Pittsburgh Police Department, and of course the assassin Charlie. Yeah, Jack's going after Charlie. The police are going after Jack Reacher, but Jack's car gets so fucked up from the pursuit, and he loses Charlie. So he just ditches the car, walks right up to a bus stop, and the people actually notice that there's cops looking for him. So what they do? Here you go, sir. Have my hat. Oh, thank you. Here, have my scarf. Why, thank you, ma'am. The fuck? Seriously? It's a little messed up too because apparently that also happened. That's apparently happened in other Jack Reacher medias as well. Yeah. Why? Because he looks like a big, dangerous, bad motherfucker, but also a nice guy. So yeah, he actually ditches the cops and he steals and he winds up taking Helen's car. but he actually calls up Helen, where of course, where the detective himself and her father, the DA, is actually there to basically tell her what actually happened. But of course, she doesn't actually believe any of them. She doesn't actually trust Emerson or her father at this point. But she actually does find out. But she did actually discover where the nearest gun range is that has a long range. It's in Ohio. Hence the long drive that Barr took every weekend. So Jack actually tells her he took her car and he's going to go all the way out there. But he also tells her this: there was only 3 people that knew he was investigating this. He was in this investigation: her, Emerson, and her father. All right, and her and Jack know that's either Emerson or her father that's in on the whole thing. Now, how else would they have figured this out? So yeah, Jack makes his way all the way out to all the way out all the way out to Ohio, and he finds the gun range, and he sees a wall with a bunch of targets on it, with a bunch of holes on them. Meaning there were tons of good shots there. Good. But there's three particular targets missing. Hmm. Very interesting. I think Jack came to the right spot. He talks to the owner, who happens to be Robert Duvall, amongst all things. Imagine that. Robert Duvall in a Tom Cruise movie. Seriously, what are the odds of that happening? Don't you just love video editing? So, uh, he actually wants to talk to the gun store owner. I mean, to the range owner himself. And it turns out the guy's a former Marine, and he actually knows who Jack Reacher really is. I should mention when Jack talks to other people, he actually uses Yankee second baseman from over the years. So, and of course, the gun store owner actually knows who he really is because he saw him at a shooting competition over 10 years ago. And he's a really good shot. But before Jack can get any answers out of the guy says he wanted to see how good Jack really was and a good shot. There is like a suspenseful scene where it looks like the guy may actually shoot Jack out in the range, but no, it doesn't really happen. So just relax. So he has Jack shoot him and take four shots. The first shot, the practice one, and the three other shots, see how good he really is. And they all make the target. Not he says, not too bad. A little rusty, but pretty damn good. So we expect no better from you, Mr. Reacher. And of course, he actually shows him James Barr's actual targets. So yeah, that's the range where James Barr actually went to the whole time around. So he figures that maybe he's on the up and up because of the fact he's the only person in the investigation that made it out that far to look for him to actually investigate. So yeah, makes you wonder, doesn't it, that anybody did their job? Nope, they just looked at Barr, saw his background, and assumed he was guilty. Nope. And of course, Mr. And of course, the guy actually tells him that James Bond actually did have a shooting buddy with him from time to time. And who was it? It was Charlie. And of course, what Charlie and the bar didn't realize was the guy actually had video surveillance, video surveillance, that actually video captured who Charlie really was. And there's also fingerprints too. Yeah. So Charlie was doing his best to try to cover all of his tracks, where he didn't realize that the gun store actually had video surveillance. You dumb fuck. So he's got video surveillance, and he's got an eyewitness testimony, and of course he's also got the target range with his fingerprints all over it. So yeah, there's more than enough evidence to actually clear Barr. So basically, so Jack calls up Helen and tells him he's got all the evidence he needs and he's going to head back as soon as he can. And he'll call her back soon. All right. So, of course, Helen actually tells her father she had a meeting with her father, so she leaves. She's not sure if it's her father or Emerson, but we later find out it's actually Emerson. Yeah. Yeah, so her father actually was knocked out. Emerson actually detains her along with Charlie. And, of course, Jack calls up Helen, and Charlie happens to pick up and tells what's going to happen. And says, no, and Jack coldly just says this, but even this actually is also in the novelization version. No matter which one you're watching, he basically just goes, "Oh, oh, you're the asshole sniper. Go ahead, kill the bitch, because I got enough evidence to actually put on you, dumb shit." Just hangs the phone right up. Wow, seriously, like Jack does not give a shit at this point. Yeah, Jack is somebody you don't threaten. All right, you don't threaten this guy at all. You don't tell him the business or anything. He tells you the business on what's really going to happen. So yeah. So basically, Jack tells Charlie that he has the video surveillance. He has video surveillance. He's got the testimony of a pissed off gun store owner and his fingerprints. So yeah, he's got all the evidence on there to actually prove that he's actually the sniper. So yeah, Charlie's fucked at this point. So basically, he's going to tell him to actually have Jack Reacher meet him someplace. Like, no. So Jack hangs up the phone on him, calls him back again, and he tells him, "Listen, you little shit," and hangs the phone up again. This is based. Here's the thing: when you and he calls him one more time, and he tells Charlie to shut the fuck up. and he tells him exactly what's going to happen because because of the fact this is somebody you don't fuck with. And this is by far one of the more badass parts of the entire movie, which is also in the novelization versions as well. Jack basically tells him straight up what's really going to happen. And if you're smart, and I know you're smart, that's going to be scary for you. You're going to be in fear for the rest of your fucking life. Now you're going to give me the goddamn address, and I will be there whenever I damn well please, you cocksucker. So eventually, Charlie gives in and gives him the address. It's actually the quarry site to the construction site that the Lyman Good wanted, the Lyman Good industry actually wanted the entire time. Who they killed the wife for? Go figure, right? Go figure. At this point, Helen meets Zack and asks why the Zack is doing the way he does. It's like, he's just an inhuman bastard. That's all there is to it. He's just an inhuman bastard. Jack actually calls out the Marine, and the Marine, rather than give him a rifle, he gives him a knife. He says, Jack, you're good, but you're still a little rusty. You better let me do this. And here's the thing: when you have a veteran sniper on your side, just listen to the fucking sniper. Just listen to the fucking guy. Just fucking listen to him. So they go to the quarry site, where of course it was obviously an ambush, and of course Jack actually goes in as the bait, while the sniper, well, of course Charlie tries to gun him down, while a couple of other guys try to gun him down, but nope. Eventually, the veteran sniper takes out one of the guys. Jack takes out the other guy, grabs his gun, and of course he starts shooting at Charlie. Charlie's about to shoot Jack, but then the sniper actually hits the gun. But then Charlie actually gets his gun hit by the veteran sniper. I mean, it was a good shot. Literally, the sniper actually takes out Charlie's gun. But hits it so hard, it's like the gun is useless at this point. So Jack finds out where the actual main office was at the quarry site. So they head over there. And of course, they think he's in a big ass truck, but nope, it's actually the veteran sniper. And of course, Jack takes out all of the bad guys in the way. He basically takes them all out at this point with precision ease. And he winds up finding Charlie. And what does he do? He fights Charlie, but he doesn't gunfight him. No, he has a gun pointed at Charlie, and he tells him to lose the gun. He loses the gun, makes him walk a little further, and he tosses his gun away too. And so they fight hand to hand. And keep this in mind: this is the Tom Cruise version of Jack Reacher, not the novelization version. The novelization version would have broken this guy's bones easily. I mean, seriously, like one of the things he could have done was actually grab the guy's fingers and just just try to pull the hand, like literally rip the hand in half. I mean, that's the type of thing that the Jack Reacher novelization version would have done. All right, basically making the guy's arm completely useless, like destroying his fucking hand. At least that's what he would have done in the novelization version, from what I'm told. But again, I actually haven't fully read this whole thing all together. I just read the cliff notes. But in a way, he does actually break the guy's arm, and he basically kills him relatively easily by stomping his head in. And before I go any further, I gotta mention something else too. The way Jack Reacher fights in the movie is nothing compared to what he does in the novelization version. Let's talk about this martial arts system called KFM. What is KFM? Is that a radio station on GTA 5? Okay, it kind of is. So it may be a radio station, but here it is. It's short for the Casey Fighting Method. What is the Casey Fighting Method? It is a martial arts system that was created back in Spain for enclosed fighting and bar fighting. It's a very unique martial arts system, and those who are comic book fans may remember it as the martial arts system that was used in the Dark Knight trilogy. Yeah. However, it was modified. Because not many kicks are actually used in the system, but they actually did wind up incorporating more kicks in the system because they actually had to work because they worked alongside with the Dark Knight film series. The thing is, with that film series, Batman is known for his kicks. Somebody who actually questioned actually saw the movie actually fucked up and said, like, you notice that Batman doesn't toss any kicks in the movie? I go, what the fuck were you watching? He tossed a ton of kicks in that movie, you dumb shit. Seriously, all three movies he tossed kicks. fucking idiot. However, that was the original version of the Casey finding method. But the Dark Knight film series actually made a new version of it called the BFM, the Batman finding method, which of course is used with the baseline is KF, which is the Casey finding method, but they also used elements of karate, taekwondo, Wing Chun, and jujitsu and savate. So they had to modify the martial arts system for Batman in that. Now, does Tom Cruise actually use the Casey finding method in this movie? Yes and no. He's using another variation of the system called Defense Lab, which back in college I've seen pamphlets on all over the campus at one point, which of course is which of course is a martial arts system for self-defense purposes. Most people tend to use karate, Krav Maga, or MMA or Jiu-Jitsu. KFM is pretty cool in a sense. It's actually sort of just a unique movie way of actually fighting. So yeah. Now, what does Jack Reacher fight in the novelization version? Well, here's the thing. His father was actually a Marine, so he actually knows several different martial arts. But what comes down to in fighting, he uses knees, elbows, kicks, punches. He's basically a actually an MMA fighter at this point, like a full-fledged MMA fighter. So yeah, and he's a veteran fighter, so he's actually had more hand-to-hand combat fights than anybody can imagine. So he knows what works and what doesn't work. All right, so keep this in mind. Movie version is using a precursor to the MACP system. What's the MACP system? Well, the MACP system is the U.S. hand-to-hand combat system that the Army uses to this very day. Made back in 1995, when the novelizations actually started being started. So that's pretty interesting to say the least. Though to be fair, his system has actually been modified over the years, so it's more or less a so it's more like a special getting tongue tied here. So more or less, Jack Reacher's fighting system is a combination of the old Marine combat system line, because his father was in the Marine system and he was also trained in special forces as well. So his version is a mix between the line, which is the old Marine combat system, which is now being used in special forces. And since Jack was actually in special forces and then became a lead and became part, and then spent the bulk of his career in the military police, you can pretty much guess that you can pretty much guess where everything falls into place. So Jack's fighting system is a hybridized version of the line system and the MACP system that the U.S. Army uses. So yeah. That being said and done, what happens to the rest of the bad guys? There's only Emerson and the Zek, which of course Jack realizes that Emerson was involved in it because he dumped because he dumped the quarter out of the parking meter. That's what gave it away. He was guilty from minute one. He just didn't notice it at the time. So Jack shoots him one shot to the head, and keep this in mind, he was behind. Literally, like Emerson was right behind Helen at the time too. So Jack just got one shot off, bullet passes right by Helen's head and hits Emerson square in the middle of the head. He's good. He's that fucking good. So he comes to the Zek. Now, here's where the movie heavily differed from the novelization version. In the novelization version, the Zek stays alive and confesses to the crime. But in this film version, he's a fucking asshole who admits he's not gonna that he's an old man that he's gonna enjoy that prison will be a summer vacation to him. So Jack just realizes you're not even. So Jack, what does he do? He shoots the guy. Yeah, he has his gun, shoots him in the face. Just coldly shoots him in the face. Why? Because mainly of this. The Zek actually looks at life as there's an A scenario and a B scenario. That's all he sees. Here's the thing, folks. There's usually a C or D scenario, and he learned it the hard way when Jack shot him in the face. Seriously, just before Jack shoots him in the face, the guy's like, "Oh shit!" Oh, bang. Yeah, he fucked up. In the end, in the end, James Moore gets cleared. How? Because, well, now that Helen's saved, they actually Bar actually is in a coma, was in a coma this entire time. And well, after he wakes up, Helen actually gives him all the information, like of what he did and everything that he was responsible for shooting, and he coldly admits it. But she actually asks him, "How did he actually do it?" He said, "Well," and he basically gives the information the way Jack actually said he would do it, which proves the point that he was innocent the whole fucking time. And the DA is right there listening to the whole thing. It's like, "You're right. I lose this case." At this point, Jack basically tells her that everything's that she's not going to need him at this point. So basically, she has Barr get dismissed of all charges, but Barr is actually freaking out because he knows the fact that Jack Reacher's going to come for him and probably kick his ass in the end. Unbeknownst to him, Jack Reacher's already left, and he's already on a bus actually going to his new destination. Unfortunately, it's a bus where this guy is actually domestically abusing this girl, where, of course, everybody on buses want to get involved in it, but Jack, in the end, he's like, nope, gets up out of his seat and goes after the guy. Roll the credits. And that, my friends, and fellow viewers, was Jack Reacher, the movie. Is it good? Yeah, it's actually good. I'd say it from the beginning. This is actually a good movie. That's a good action thriller. It's surprisingly very good. But the novelization version from what I'm told is a lot different, and I'm actually reading a couple of books right now. I'm actually reading a John Corey book, and I'm reading the second Atomic Rex novel. So eventually I'm going to get a chance to read this one. But I did read the Cliff Notes, so it's a lot different from the original. So it's a lot different from the movie version. And honestly, is that a good thing or is it a bad thing? It's a Jack Reacher novel. You never know what to expect, except good character development and a badass main character. That's what you're going to get. Now, there was a sequel. Now, the movie did really well at the box office, gaining good reviews, and there was a sequel, Never Go Back, which also did slightly well too, but there was never a third film. Why was that? Well, apparently, I don't know, but apparently Lee Charles didn't actually like the fact that Tom Cruise is actually portraying Jack Reacher. But to make matters even worse, you want to know who originally was actually approached to do the role? We actually had two actors gunning for the role before Tom Cruise took over. Yeah, want to know who the two actors were? And this actually really pissed me off because when I found out these two actors were actually turned down for the role and the role was given to Tom Cruise, it really pissed me off. We had Dwayne the Rock Johnson, which could have easily done the role his own way, but he kind of fits the criteria because he's the same height and built like he's ready to fight. Yeah, so he could have done the role relatively easy, but the other actor who would have been a shoehorn for Jack Reacher, this pissed me off, Joe Magliano. It's bad enough we're not getting a Batman film where he's fighting Joe Magliano's the Ben Affleck Batman film where he's not fighting Joe Magliano's Deathstroke. But Joe Magliano was turned down playing Jack Reacher. God, he would have been perfect for the role. He's 6'5" and he's actually built like he's a soldier. How they turned this down, I have no idea. Oh my god. But there is some good news though. For those who are actually huge fans of the novelization version, we got the Amazon Prime TV show starring Alan Richardson. And it is way better than the actual movie because Alan Richardson is the definitive Jack Reacher because he's the right height and he's the right body shape, body weight shape. And you know what? He's literally what the actor. Even Lee Charles admitted that. Yeah, this guy is perfect for the role, and he's actually good. He's an awesome guy in real life, and yeah, he's perfect for the role. Yeah, we had season one, which was a phenomenal season. Season two kicked ass, and now we got season three on the way. So yeah, Jack Reacher is not going away anytime soon. We have the novelization series, which is still going on, but now we have a third season coming out soon, which may be greenlit for season four soon. Oh yeah, Jack Reacher is a character who's here to stay. I said my piece, so thank you very much, and hope you all have a good day. This is Ferox Frank, signing out. Would I recommend people watching Jack Reacher? The movies? Yeah, go ahead. You can watch him. TV show is a must watch though if you're a huge fan of the novels. You all take care now.